His name is taken from the Nigerian Yoruba tribe. Obba, meaning king, and Babatunde, meaning the spirit of the grandfather, has returned in the child. And in royal fashion, he has, over the last 3 decades now, become one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. We're privileged to give some FaceTime to Obba Babatunde. What's happening, my man? How you doing, brother?
I'm fantastic, Alton. Thank you so much for inviting me on this show.
Come on now, it's our privilege, man. So, you know, man, let's go back to Jamaica, Queens, New York.
Yes.
Man. Can we do that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, by the age of 14, you know, legend has it that you had already mastered 10 brass instruments.
Well, that's true. I mean, mastered is relative, but I was playing 10 brass instruments by that time, as well as starting very much down the road of being a high-ranking martial artist.
Okay, so as you, during your formative years then,
Yes.
when we look at your elementary school years going into junior high school, not only were you in the performing arts, but you also got your feet wet with the martial arts?
That is correct.
So what impact did your exposure to martial arts have on your continued development with dance?
Well, absolutely, it was a connection,
Okay.
you know, because the martial arts is its own form of dance. Relative to the style of martial arts, its origins were certainly embedded in the forms of movement as it pertained to one's evading an attack or, you know, the aggression upon doing one. But the beauty of it was, more importantly, it was the discipline. It was the discipline that was instituted that, you know, to be an artist, you have to have a discipline in order to evolve and develop a craft that really is rooted in something, not just savoir-faire or just a happenstance, but actually to be able to take that craft and utilize it in a method that is going to give you longevity. You have to have a discipline, because that's what will give you the longevity. And I like to think that my 38 years of professional as a person in this business, it proves and gives weight to that fact.
No question, man. I mean, when you mention the fact that in your childhood that you were serious about your study of martial arts, it makes me think of your sons. At this juncture, your youngest, Malachi the Great, is also a pretty decent martial artist and performing artist himself. So, you know, man, the love and adoration that you have for your sons, man.
Yes. Well, you know, that seed, both my oldest son and Malachi, as you mentioned, my oldest son being Alton Tariq, a name taken where Alton being a great warrior, Tariq being a great lover, so he was given the best of both worlds. Malachi Kalen speaks for itself, Malachi having his own book in the good book. But, you know, I tried to give to them a sense of self, because I think that's the greatest gift that I could give to any child, particularly my own, is a sense of a belief in oneself, a dedication to the Father, and to what it is that they decide to give their life to, in terms of a career or a lifestyle, you know, but at the end of the day, to know that their opinion counts, that they matter, and that they can succeed under any circumstances.
You know, that philosophy, Babatunde, seemed to be something that, as you entered college, going to Brooklyn College, as well as your tight relationship with your brother, man, when you finished Brooklyn College, to the point that you just mentioned in terms of what you have always sought to instill in your sons, is that, you know, it's interesting to note that upon your graduation from Brooklyn College, alongside your brother, you guys would work at the Harriet Tubman School, and both as educators and as administrators, in a way where you focused on helping to guide the lives of young people who were talented and gifted students of color
Yes.
at a time where that wasn't the type of curriculum that was considered an everyday curriculum.
Precisely, precisely. And I'm glad you brought that up, and for two reasons. One, just to give you a basis of the way the school was designed, as we taught elementary education, we started with one sixth grade class, and in 3 years had a first through sixth grade and a preschool, completely licensed staff by that time. And what we did was we taught the basis of elementary education with an extended curriculum in the creative arts, which means that we taught everything through the use of the creative arts. So mathematics was taught through music, because music is math.
Okay.
If you take something that's in 4/4 time, right? 4/4 time is a fraction, okay? So when we begin to relate that, see, because you can teach practically anything if you teach it to equate it to something that someone already is familiar with, rather than presenting it as a foreign, something foreign to their existence. So we would take these things. We took them to museums. We took them to plays. And what I would do was, we had a school newspaper, and the beauty of it was we would take the strengths of those students. If somebody was quite talkative, they became my reporters. If someone was excellent at the skill of drawing, they became my graphic artists. And if someone was a great speller, they became the editor. So we took all of the strengths, and at the end of every 6 weeks, we would put out a school newspaper. And it was contributing from each grade level, talking about what their experiences were, where they had gone, or what was going on in the news and their viewpoints of that. So we got an opportunity, and they had something in their hands that they could show for what it was that they had contributed to. And the second thing I wanted to make a point of was, I was just back on Broadway doing Chicago about 6 months ago.
Billy Flynn.
Billy Flynn, yes. And the beauty of it was, one of the first students in the first sixth grade class came to visit me.
Oh,
they are
wow.
now a teacher,
Wow.
and also run a teen program.
Okay.
So you see that investment, planting that seed in fertile soil and nurturing it, always, given the opportunity, will bear fruit.
Now, this was someone whom you hadn't seen in some close to 30
Absolutely.
years or
Absolutely.
so. And so,
Rafrika Brown.
wow, man. Our love and continued best wishes to Miss Rafrika Brown. Wow, that had to floor you, man.
Yes, it was. You know what it did? It just gave me the continuum to really continue to do that. Continue to plant those seeds, continue to encourage, continue to inspire.
Mm.
And you know what? That's not that difficult as people would think it is. It's a matter of communication. Get with a young person, get with an older person, get with a friend, a brother or a sister, and remind them that they can do it, that the capability is there.
The Harriet, I guess what one tries to wrap one's head around is, first of all, the name of the school is the Harriet Tubman School.
That's right.
Second of all, your brother who has chosen the name Obba Babatunde, and so you and your brother running this school that is eons ahead of its time.
Yes.
Even given the fact that New York City is considered to be progressive and arguably the most multicultural city in the world,
Yes.
it still begs the question, how were both you and your brother received within the general population when scores of people would find out what you guys were doing?
Yes. Well, it was interesting. It's interesting that you would ask that question, because it was challenging, because it was innovative and it was new, and people are creatures of habit. There was some challenges, and the challenges came, interestingly enough, from those who stood to be the benefactors as parents. Because one of the things that we asked was, we said, you must take an active part in your children's education, which simply meant, I want you to discuss with your child what it is that they're doing during that day. And I had certain parents come to me and say, listen, I send my child to school for you to teach it. When I come home, I'm tired. See, but that spoke to a condition. These parents were working, they were exhausted. They were trying to make it. But at the same time, we have to remember when this was going on. There was a revolution going on. It was a time, as we are in now, where there was a time for change. It was evolving. And so we just happened to be riding the crest of that wave. You know what I mean? And we accepted the challenge. And then there were challenges that were presented by other aspects of the community. Because at one point, after the first 3 years, we were told, well, now you have to have a community board of directors, which you cannot be a member of or an elector to. We found that somewhat peculiar. But that was what was placed upon us, because remember, we were being funded. And we were put in a position where when those people who were paying the dollars are putting up, say, well, listen, we think that this is what it needs to happen right now, you know. But listen, at the end of the day, I want to tell you that these were children that came initially voluntarily. And it started where there was an after-school program that grew to be a full curriculum school. So they wanted to be there. They needed a place to go, and we were the place for them to come. But it was a time for change. And yes, we were faced challenges. But as I said, to speak to, you know, every one of those children in that first grade, in that first 6th grade class, every one of them completed at least a minimum of 2 years of college. These were children that people said have learning disabilities or have issues with their discipline. You know, instead of going to gym, we put them in martial arts. Because I had been a martial artist, I was able to impart that to them.
Man, you know, it's interesting because that which works within the institution of education, there just seems to be aspects that are effective, that are timeless. And everything that you are mentioning seems to, in one way or another, eventually work its way back to find those who are passionate about the craft, who care first and foremost about the children, and who have the gumption to set high expectations for students, regardless of what their background, the place from which they come. And it's interesting that everything that you were working towards alongside your brother decades ago is arguably just as relevant or more relevant now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we continue. Now, I now have a school that's called Musical Theater for Kids, in which we have seasoned professionals who teach the children the craft of singing, both in vocal projection as well as voice in terms of singing. We give them the tools that are necessary to be professionals in this industry, not children who are cute, just cute in a recital format, but that who actually come together with the tools. Dance, they learn jazz, ballet, hip hop, and tap. They learn real acting techniques, the kinds of things that will arm them with the ability to be fine actors. Not just, again, somebody that says, no. They get a script. They're given, I work with them and the other teachers and professionals who come. The name of the school, I should tell you, is Phillips Performing Arts. And Rena Phillips is the founder. And, you know, she's always had this dream. Rena also happens to be Malachi's mom.
Malachi the Great. Hey, Mom!
Yes, indeed. But the fact that she had this dream, and now it's in fruition. We've done 2 productions. We did Alice in Wonderland. It is a completely multiracial company. Beautiful. We open ourselves up to children between the ages of 7 and up. So we have young adults, we have young children, but everybody gets an opportunity to experience the craft. The second production was Seussical, and now we're about to launch into Beauty and the Beast.
Look out, they're doing a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And that's the Phillips Performing Arts.
Phillips Performing Arts, Musical Theater for Kids.
Okay. Man, young Malachi, I just want to be like you when I grow up, man. That's all. I just want to be like, you know, Babatunde, when we look at the arc of your career, man, it seems as though we could break it down chronologically into a few different sections. You know, the first of which, the period of the early to late 70s going into right at the beginning of the 80s, man, you were smoking, man, because there was a time in your career as an educator where your other career as a performer seemed to sort of meet.
Yes.
And you had to make a decision, but of course you knew that your passion was to pursue long-term performing.
Yes.
As an actor, dancer, etc. You know, man, projects like Short Eyes, Timbuktu, Guys and Dolls with Leslie Uggams and Richard Roundtree,
yes,
come to mind. Liza Minnelli, where you got the moniker
yes,
Mr. Cellophane.
Yes,
man.
Yes.
You know, that there was about a 6-year pocket, man, roughly say 76 to about 82, where, man, you end that particular arc
yes,
with your Tony nomination, man, with originating the role of C.C. White, thank you very much, in Dreamgirls. Mr. Tony, thank you so much, man. Michael Bennett, we see you, sir. So, man, can you describe for us, when we backtrack, that particular period, which would more or less serve as the launching pad in your career? You know, what comes to mind for you now when you know, in retrospect, just kind of look at that, man?
Well, you know what? You mentioned how the education and the entertainment, if you will, merged. You see, I feel that we have the ability, through the entertainment and the creative arts, to continue education. You see, we have the ability to make those a merger. And, you know, I like to say that I've had friends or individuals who have seen my work will say to me, "Hey, yo, man, look, I love your work, man. I see everything you do, man. You be killing them out there, man. Look here, next time you're doing a movie, hook a brother up." To which I say, listen, I appreciate the compliment, because I know you mean it as a compliment, but I want to share something with you. Have you ever had an opportunity where you've been ill enough to go and see a professional, a doctor? Yeah. Well, during that time, do you ever remember, upon leaving that doctor's office or having him perform, he or she perform whatever they needed to make you feel better, do you ever remember saying, next time you're getting ready to do an operation, hook a brother up?
That's cold.
That doesn't come to mind. And I said, the reason for that is because you respect that what that person does is something at that particular moment which you are not a professional at doing. And I said, I'd like you to view those of us who are in the arts and have been in for a long time, give us the same, a relative kind of respect, because here's why. I represent, the images that I present that go around the world represents who you are or might be. That when someone gets the opportunity to meet you, they may have an idea of who you are or who you're not. And those images proceed. So my job I take very seriously with the point of education. You know, I've had the great pleasure of being involved in projects like in film, like Philadelphia, like Miss Evers Boys, like John Q, like How High, where introduced me to an entirely new, younger audience. Mm-hmm. And what it is that when they look at the retrospective work and they get an opportunity to sit and chat and talk, they identify that this is someone who really has served their good. As we see with the our incoming hero, that he represents a much larger spectrum of the world population, bringing us therefore together as a world community. And that's what I think, and I've tried to do with my work, is to take the education, to look back on those years. You know, as you speak of the fact of viewing, I want to borrow a page from the great Harry Hancock, who people come up and say, man, Herbie, I loved it. And he says, listen, I love what I've done, but I'd rather talk about and look forward to what I'm going to do then identify what it is that I've done. And I'd like to think that I see life the same way. I want to continue to open myself to new opportunities, to producing and directing. You know, I told you that I'm working on projects. I've got a new show that is going to break the whole scene. I know it wide open. It's called Hear No Evil, the musical, starring Keith David, the great Keith David, and written by Bruce Carlton Fisher, who gave us such hits as Will It Go Round in Circles, along with Billy Preston.
All right.
Who wrote You Are So Beautiful. And the story is, it's the story of Jesus from the devil's point of view. And all of the great hits of the 70s and 80s is the music that we use to tell the story. So but again, I bring that up to talk about continuing. You know, Dreamgirls revolutionized the American theater, and thusly, we told the story. I was reading a byline today. They're getting ready to do it again, and it said it's about the music industry, the journey of these three girls through the music industry in this particular period of time. But I want to say on your show that it's more than that. Dreamgirls is a brilliant portrayal of the indictment of the racist practices of our great country during that time as it pertained to black artists. That's what it is. But it's done in such a clever and beautiful fashion that it educates, it entertains. Those characters that you see in Dreamgirls, that I, Clevant Derricks, Ben Harney, Jennifer Holliday, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Loretta Devine, Vondie Curtis Hall had the opportunity to breathe life into, were composite characters. They weren't one person. They were composite characters of the great artists of that time. The Wilson Pickett's, the Joe Tex, the Aretha Franklins, the Chaka Khans. The list is endless. You see, they were composites. And those stories that they may not have had an opportunity to tell about what they had to go through during that time was what we were making sure was talked about at that time. So again, it's an education. I keep going back to that because education is so valuable. But you don't have to just relegate it to a classroom.
Well, one of the projects that you mentioned a few moments ago, I think, is the epitome of the focus that you have to make sure that your art serves as edutainment, if you will. The role that you played Willie Johnson in the HBO movie, Miss Evers' Boys, who was one of the men involved in the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, that, you know, there are those, believe it or not, who saw the movie when it originally was released in 1997, who, after seeing it, said, man, I had no idea that anything like that ever happened in America. We couldn't do that in America. And yet, the fact is that that's not even the tip of the iceberg of some of the things that have taken place with respect to American citizens. And so how grateful are you that you get to drop those types of dimes to inform humanity with your art?
Absolutely, and grateful is the perfect word. I'm absolutely honored to be able to have been chosen to be involved in those. You know, as a result, I would like to believe, of us doing Miss Evers' Boys, I remember the president at the time, Bill Clinton, came forward and issued a formal apology from the country to those men and their families. You see, that's the power. And put on Front Street that this kind of thing should not be happening. There was already a cure for syphilis. The study was to study untreated syphilis in the African American male. And it said to completion, which meant to their demise, because then it could be a scientific proven fact, when already there was a cure. This kind of thing is devastating. And as you said, it's only the tip of the iceberg. But a project like that gave life to those men, to those men and women and their families again, you know, and hopefully someone will say, oh my goodness, as you said, I didn't know that went on, and will be a little bit more of a watchdog in making sure that it doesn't happen again.
Your career, it seems as though, man, you have managed to navigate, as we talked about initially, the 70s, 80s, and then when we look at the 80s, you began to make that trek from the East Coast to the West Coast,
yes.
Get that television work happening, and then the film thing happens, man. And, you know, you have managed to craft to a science, one could argue, making sure that you just stick around. Not necessarily concerned about being the lead actor, but you'll take roles. And man, there's Babatunde. I didn't know Babatunde was in that. I didn't know that. So how have you managed to craft what works for you to keep you relevant in the game so long?
Well, one of the things I would like to think it is that I do have a craft. And that the longevity, as I said earlier in our conversation, comes from the ability to hone that which is useful, that which is viable. So when I step into a room, and you see, I want to say this, and particularly to those who are looking to enter this business. You mentioned lead actor as opposed to character actor, as opposed to supporting actor. These are all titles that someone has given to the industry in order to compartmentalize, and it really is relative to dollars in many cases. If I am in a scene as the lead actor or a supporting actor, what is the difference in the capability of what I bring to that scene? There really should be none. I'm committed to who that character is. There is not just one person in life. There's the mother, there's the father, there's the sister, there's the cousin, there's the uncle, there's this, and all of those people have variable things that bring forth what life is about. So grab hold to who you're in that piece and bring forth the truth of who that character is. One of the nicest compliments I was paid is that people have said to me, Obba, you know, when I see you in a movie, it doesn't matter what part you're playing, I always, by the end of the movie, want to know more about that person. That's a huge compliment. When I was, you know, in That Thing You Do, they said that the guys that were doormen around the world said, hey man, when they see me, they say, you made us look good. You made us feel proud of who we are. I accept that as a huge compliment.
Hold on, I think this is the studio calling, man. Give me just a second. Yes, we're interviewing Obba Babatunde, man. As we get ready to get out of here, I just want to let you know that even though you're about to leave us, we're going to continue to rap, man, okay? So thank you, Obba Babatunde, for joining us for another edition of FaceTime, man. Until next go-round, thank you for the privilege, because without you, we ain't got nothing, man. So, Babatunde, man, you know, you got your people calling me, man, and,
Well,
and it's
know,
just unacceptable,
I have to
man.
make that next move.
You know,
know.
it's unacceptable.
But I thank you so much for the opportunity today. I've had a great time.
No, man, it's our privilege, brother.
Always, Alton.
Continued success, man. I can't wait on that.